Okay, so transitioning into our next guest speaker, I just want people to just in the chat share your name, where you are joining us from as we wait for Hapal to start the next presentation. So your name, where you're joining us from. I still don't see where are people joining from? Who is in this chat? We have Aline from Burundi, Maponga from Zimbabwe, Pardon, Harare, Zimbabwe. Love to see Rudo from Malawi. Love to see the diversity in this chat. Keep your names coming as Paul sets up and gets ready for this next presentation.
I'm ready, Sandra, whenever you are.
Oh, great. Thank you. So our next guest is Paul Kocher, and I will just let him take the floor and introduce himself and what he does. We really appreciate having you here. So we hope that everyone else will learn a lot from you, but I'll give this time over to you.
Great. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Roembo, for giving me a chance to talk to this audience. Like the previous speaker, I tend to speak very fast as well. So a way to slow me down is just do this, okay? If you feel I get excited, I'm very passionate about my subjects, and brand building is super critical to me, and it'll be all to you, because for one reason, we all come from a background where things were not the best in our country. I grew up in India, in Bombay, and the only thing that got me into this country and got me doing really well was how I meticulously built my brand over time. Now, a lot of this was implicit to me. Brand, I believe, should be an implicit concept, should not be explicit. You should not be putting content out, to your points earlier, on social media and stuff just to look cool. Brand is something which flows out of you. But because we only have so much time in a day, and the people have only so much attention, there is a time and a place to nail your brand in. And in very simple terms, when you're in a meeting, when you're at a party, speaking the right words at the right time, not getting drunk. I mean, just very, very basic things about brand go a very, very long way, okay? The one thing that the previous speaker spoke at the end, and I wish he had spoken that in the beginning, is when he said, I grew up to a single mom, and I grew up in very humble roots. I think that is a way to connect with an audience, and the brand 101 is all about connecting with people, making them feel comfortable with what you bring to the table. Okay, and so a lot of what I will speak right now, and feel free to reach out to me later. I've also put in my Google Classroom. I'll just put it in the chat as well. You can join my college admissions classroom. And I believe many of you are looking to come to the United States at some point. Or even if not, I am a college counselor by passion. I am a software engineer by my day job, but in the evening, I help out all kinds of students with college admissions process, simply because I went through that with my older daughter. And it took me 4 years to understand what the heck was, how do you get into a college in the US? And even at the end of it, I did good enough a job, not the ultimate job, okay? So it is a passion, please reach out to me later, okay? Okay, I'm not looking at my chat of questions, Sandra. If there are questions which come along the way, please do ask me those questions. That's perfectly fine to interrupt me in between. I do get thrown off, but that's okay. I'll come back. It's important that you all learn more than what I enjoy with telling you, okay? So this was my, when I was growing up, I grew up to a single mom, okay? Very, very humble roots. But what I had going for me was I always dreamt very big. When Merrill Lynch, a US company, came to India to hire people, they were based in Hong Kong. And I heard from somebody that Merrill Lynch is going to come and they are at one of the best hotels in Bombay and they're hiring people. And I said, I got to go and give it a shot. If they will let me come in, I'm going to give it a shot. And I was the bottom of the pack, guys. In my classroom, if I ever showed you my report cards, like in India, when you fail a subject, they put a red line under your marks saying, this is a subject you want to take again. my report card is filled with reds. Okay. So I was bottom of the pack. I just was very smart about picking up opportunities. Merrill Lynch had to pick up one person from India, from Bombay. So India, basically, they came to India, country of that time of 1.1 billion people. And they chose only one people to take with them to Hong Kong. And that person is yours truly. Not because I was the smartest, not because I went to the best school, not because I was the most educated. It's because I could connect with the managing director when I met him the first time. We started talking about his passion for sports. And we got talking, and I was taken over many other people. That was my one-on-one brand. Okay. So take risks, dream big, and make it happen. None of this happens without having a personal brand. This is a little about my background, about who I am. I work for a company called Salesforce. I'm a software engineer by profession, by my day job. And in the evening, like I said, I do college counseling. I grew up in India. 1994 is when I graduated. When I graduated in 1994, pretty much within no time of my graduating, most students, most of my classmates were leaving for America because they had picked up a couple of 2-3 years of experience by 96. And I was like, oh my God, everybody's leaving. I had no clue how to go to the US. All I could think of that time was, girlfriends and life in general. That's all I enjoyed doing. And in 96, when most of my friends left, I'm like, I got to leave. And if you see, I've been in the US since 96. So literally in 4 months from the time I decided to leave for the US, I was in the US. And it's not because I paid my way to get in. I had built a brand. I had done something unique, which others did not. I had some rare and valuable skills because of which others had to go and sit in interviews. I got a visa sitting at home. A visa was sent to me, an offer letter was sent to me together, and I was told, please come and join our company. It does not happen by chance. Everything has to be planned. Okay. This is, you see my passion. You can see who I am all around. I'm barely an engineer. Okay. But I'm doing very well as an engineer right now. This is my company. This is what I do in the evenings and on weekends with my daughters and me. Rovimbo is classmates with Shreya, the girl on the right in this picture. And those are my two daughters. This is my company, which has a unique value proposition. I tailor my business to a specific audience. Audiences, immigrant perspectives, audience that's frugal, audience that wants to get a logical perspective, wants an engineer, wants an immigrant perspective, wants somebody who's gone the path to there and can empathize. And there are a dime a dozen people who have this skill. Okay. Why am I chosen over others? It's the brand. Brand is built, to the previous speaker's point, one step at a time. You have to fight your way one-on-one to build your brand, because what happens when you build that brand one-on-one is that one person goes and tells 5 people. That message is far more important in your early stages of building a brand than getting 1 million likes on all these platforms like TikTok and Insta and all the other stuff. You've heard about LeBron James, right? This is some basic branding questions. Okay, LeBron is known as one of the best. He is the best of the best when it comes to shooting, right? In the game of basketball. But LeBron is also known for many other things. He's known for somebody who showed a finger to Trump, right? He's known for being for the people. He believes in doing right things. So if I have a situation in life when I want to reach out to somebody and there are 5 people available who I can reach out to, and one of them happens to be LeBron, I will call LeBron because implicitly he's built a brand that he will help me. LeBron cannot do anything wrong. It's not because he's the greatest athlete of all time. It's because over time, meticulously with his implicit actions, these were not explicit actions, these are implicit actions, he has something more to offer to the world. Again, they say brand is what people say when you're not in the room. I think brand is what people would say when they came to your funeral, okay? Or what was written in your obituary. So you build your brand literally imagining. I build my brand hoping or fantasizing the future about how people will think of me when I'm not around. I'm sure they're going to forget me in a year or 2 years. Maybe my kids will remember me a little longer because they'll say, damn, dad's gone. He had a lot of money to give to us. But the world will forget me within a year, maximum 2 years. I am not Madiba. I am nobody great. Okay. But I strive on a daily basis for that one lecture or that 2 sentences a person will talk about me when they come to my funeral. Plan your brand for that. Life is simple. Life is not too hard. Life is not about millions of likes. We don't want to become superstars. We want to be able to help some people and help them well. I talk with college applications because most of my students are applying to amazing schools and they want to go. And they ask me questions like, how should I differentiate myself over others? And I tell them, I said, you do not need to differentiate yourself over. So for example, Harvard takes in 1,700 people. They get about 55,000 applications. So that's about 4% or 5%, which is the acceptance rate. You are not competing with 55,000 people. You're competing with fellow Zimbabweans. To take it more specific, you're competing with only a few schools and only like 10 or 12 students, out of which 2 will make it to the US. All you have to do is think about those 12 students and figure out how you can distinguish yourself over those 2. Okay? And this illustration of this bear is a story which says the bear was coming, 2 people were running, 1 person stopped to put on shoes. Well, the other was like, idiot, you got to run, let's run. It's the bear is coming. And he said, no, let me put on my good shoes because all I have to do is run faster than you. Okay. If you know yourself and you know your competition, as Sun Tzu says, who's The Art of War, I read these books a lot. I'm big into philosophy and I would recommend everyone in their life to read The Art of War by Master Sun Tzu. You will never be defeated. It's more, sometimes it's even more important than knowing yourself is knowing who your opponent is. And once you know that, you're good. Okay. Typical stereotypical activities, my students come to me and they all have impressive grades. They have basic extracurriculars. They've all done piano. They've done some kind of sport. Their essay stories are mediocre. They're okay, nothing great. All I have to do is just change things a little bit with them, right? If they meet me early, if they meet me in the 10th grade, I have to make sure that they do a few things which are outside of science, maybe in art. Or if they're in art, I have to make them do a few things in math to make them holistic, to make them. So my focus is thinking about who are they competing with. And that's it, right? That's what you have to apply the same logic to brand. Brand is not about you fighting against Kanye West or against Beyonce. You're going to get your rear kicked if you think about that as your competition, because that's a non-starter. They play a different ball game altogether. When Kanye started, he started with playing against rappers around him. That's where his brand was built. Okay. What you need to do to differentiate yourself is to build what we call as rare and valuable skills. Okay. There is a book on this subject, and I'm forgetting the name of the author. I remember it up to 2 minutes ago. I read this book about 5 years ago where he said passion is overrated. Okay. It's all bullshit, right? Passion, and you have to work at 10,000 hours to build a skill set. I have applied this when I was coming from India to the US, when I had to build some skills which people would buy my skills for. So there was a language called Java, which had just come out that back in the days in 94, 95, James Gosling had just created a language. There was a company called Sun Microsystems that gave it out. There was nobody who knew what Java was in 1996. And when I decided to come to the US, I said, I'm going to just study the heck out of this. So for 3 months straight, I did not do anything else. I just sat down in a dungeon and I studied Java to a point where I could bullshit my way to say I have 3 years of experience in Java. Okay. I could say that with confidence because I spent 3 months straight working at it without waiting. I built a rare and valuable skill that people wanted. What happened was when Merrill Lynch came to India, the people who interviewed me had no skill. They had some basic knowledge of Java, but I beat them right away. So as long as I could have skills more than the interviewer, I was good to go. And the guy said, we'll get back to you. And he didn't get back to me. He sent me a visa. Okay. He sent me an offer letter he didn't even ask me for what will I accept. They just sent me a disgustingly amazing offer and I came. Okay. So this is a metaphor for how you build your skills, what the world needs. Okay. You start with what are you good at? And again, you don't have to be good at, you could just be good at being a guide in Zimbabwe, right? For certain, tourists and things, or you are good at computer programming in Python. Okay. Or you are good at, working with nonprofits, or you're an entrepreneur, you built something basic. Like you could see from the prior speaker, how energetic, how emphatic he was as a speaker. Okay. That's the person I want to go out and have a coffee with again and again, because I know he has something good to offer. Just his body style, the way his chest was opening up as he was talking, the smile, the passion, saying, I'm here to help you. I want to work with him. That is his rare and valuable skill. Okay. So you don't have to overthink this whole thing. Like I have to, hike Kilimanjaro to be known for the particular skill. It's what you have innate in you. That's what I'm trying to tell you. This presentation is freaking boring, if you will, because you already have in you what the world needs. Okay. When I was growing up, I could negotiate really, really well. It's because my father used to ask me to negotiate with the fruit stand, the guy who would get bananas to our house on a daily basis. My father would give me a certain amount of allowances saying, this is your budget in which you need to buy the bananas. And whatever I was able to negotiate was my cut for the day. That's what, based on which I could eat all my garbage outside. If I could not negotiate a good deal, we had to get 12 bananas in the house. Okay. And I had to negotiate to keep my cut in between so I can enjoy evening with some friends outside. And I became very good at negotiations. So that is a skill. So for example, we just went to buy a car for my wife. Actually, we went to buy, remember, the car for Shreya just a couple of days ago. So I went with my wife to buy a car, and we walked in, and the guy was like, there's no way I'm going to go less than a certain price, right? He put the price, and I knew he's not, because I had already investigated, researched everything. Okay. And I still was able to get him to shave off another $2,000. So the car finally cost me $38,000. But I was able to shave off another $2,000 just with communication. Saying, hey, let's bond. And he asked me the question. He said, have you ever worked at a car dealership before? The fact is, I've never, but I have a skill to negotiate. I have an empathetic way to know how the sales guy is going to work on the other side. It works. The gospel of branding is you don't want to be boring. You saw Mafo go before us. Did he sound boring at all? No. He was a guy I was interested in. I took notes. I mean, these are all my notes just on everything he spoke, right? Because I picked up stuff. I learned from him. So that 30 minutes I gave him, he gave me more back, and I could feel it. That's what branding is about, right? You tailor it to an audience. Okay? I wish he had started by saying, I grew up to a single mom. I can tell you 50% of you would have had far more interaction right there if he had started with that as a starting point. Okay. Consistency is key. It's about authenticity. I mean, it's not, most of the things he's already spoken. I want to tell you about quality over quantity. It's not about how many things you've done. Do a few things and do them really, really, really well. Okay. Even if it's one thing, be known as the boss of that one thing. When people think of you, like when he said, when that one word you write for Beyonce, okay, it's because she has spent millions of hours on that particular skill. I'm saying you don't have to spend millions of hours. If you can pick up a rare skill which is valuable enough, and you can say, I'm good at this, you're good to go. Ultimately, I can't tell you what you're good at. You know what you're best at. Okay. It's impossible for anybody else. I mean, sometimes students come and ask me this question saying, what do you think I'm good at? I'm like, honey, that's the wrong question. That's a question you need to answer. Okay. You can tell me what you're good at, and I could critique it and help you get better at it. Okay. Many of us students are very humble, or we just don't have that confidence. We've grown up in such broken background. I mean, life is just broken for students in general. Okay. They can't believe that they're the best, but you got to fake it until you make it. So fake, fake, fake. I did that. I did it for a living. I faked it, and then I made it ultimately. Okay. If you're applying for college admissions, typically your brand is really around these 6 things. Okay. And again, I'm trying to just simplify it, because if you're applying for colleges or any kind of, as a student, your performance matters, and that's your performance, your grades are 50% of your brand. 50% of people, how people are going to react to who you are is based on that, not upon the likes you got in TikTok and all the bullshit, right? How much demonstrated interest did you show? When I asked Mufaro this question with Wimbo's friend, he said he applied only to one school, which was MIT, right? So he applied everything into it. I can tell you that man must have spent hours and hours demonstrating his interest, saying everything about that school that he wanted to come to. And it showed in his application, the demonstrated interest. The personal essays, how do you connect with the person? What is it about a personal essay that you need to write? You don't have to write about earth-shattering things. As long as you can communicate something holistic, as long as you can communicate something new about how you think intellectually, and I want to come and meet you again, do that. Right? It's about meeting a stranger for a cup of coffee. You're going out for a date. It's a blind date. You've been set up by somebody. The person knows nothing about you. You have less than 30 seconds to get your initial impression. It's not about the most exciting hook. Because I can tell you, if you make a very exciting hook, you better have a very exciting story. Otherwise, that damn hook is going to come out lame. Okay? You're okay with coming out with a basic hook and then building up your story. So expectations are lower. And then building up a good story from there. Okay. Your recommendation letters do not have to say, Wimbo was the best student or Sandra was amazing in a class. They have to say something about her struggle. She tried, she failed, she tried, she was doing this. She did not know these concepts. She gets angry at times, but she works on it. Okay. That's what your recommendation letter has to talk about you. That has to build your brand, your character. Your extracurricular activities do not have to be a kitchen sink. They could be just 2 activities, just 2. But as long as you're referencing those in your personal essays, in your demonstrated interest, you're building a cohesive story, you're good. As the previous speaker spoke about, you are a product. The most important thing about this product is authentic, consistent, okay? You have to be consistent in what you give to people, so it builds over time. You have to be visible at the right place at the right time. You don't have to be in the face all the time, okay? You have to be valuable with whatever you give. When people come to you, you got to be humble and give them. It's all about what can I give to you so your time that you're giving me, dedicated time right now, is worth you being here. That's personal branding. So it's bullshit about, when we hear about, Bezos and all these stories about brand and yada, yada, yada. It's much simpler, in my opinion. You have control over your brand. Because of social media and other ways, you have a lot more control, okay? But also the situation where people can control a lot about you. But there's only so much you can put up about, say, if somebody writes something negative about you, or people believe they are far more important than they really are to other people's lives. It's not, if somebody calls you, somebody sent you hate speech or something, nobody honestly cares in this world. Only you care, and you think the whole world cares about you. Nobody really cares about you. Okay, that's the reality. Nobody has time to care about anybody. But that's where the beauty is, that you have now an opportunity to influence people with something consistent. If you send the same message out or similar messages out, people will remember you. Okay, it's about differentiation. You have to manage what people think of you, which means when you Google yourself and you look at your feeds, I see all these students trying to hide their accounts when it comes to applying to colleges, which is so stupid. Why were their accounts even there in the first place? Why were you not having a blog of yours? Why was your LinkedIn profile not formal and nice? And why was the headshot of you was doing this and stupid stuff like this on the screen? Why was it not just with a white background behind it when you had a smiling, exciting look on your face? That's a no-brainer. You got to start with that. Okay. What's your current brand? What makes you special? We talked about the rare and valuable skills. What do you want to be known for? What is unique that you provide to people? They have to feel that about you. You got to take feedback. I take feedback from a lot of friends. I will take feedback from random strangers. What do they think about what I just spoke? In fact, at the end of this session, I would ask you, tell me, send me a note saying what you felt, and save. I like to hear the bad stuff more than the good stuff. I know a lot of good things about me. What I don't know is the bad things about me, or how I went rattling over, where I made some culturally insensitive comment. Tell me those things because I want to learn. Okay. How do you strengthen your brand? You first need to know what your goal is. Okay. My goal in 94 was to come to the US. Okay? My goal right now is to be known as the best counselor in the world, not the best engineer. I'm already the best engineer. I know what I'm good at. Okay? Who is the target audience? Today, my target audience is students here. Tomorrow, it's going to be a different set of parents. Where do I go and send my message out mostly? Facebook, LinkedIn. Okay? Because that's where my audience lives. People who have money in their pockets, parents who are ready, who are busy parents, immigrant parents who have kids in high school in the US, in the Bay Area, they go there. Okay. I have a philanthropic side. I have a nonprofit, including the community classroom I just gave all of you access to. That I do for fun. Okay. But then, of course, I have to feed my Shreya my daughter has to get those wacky big cars as well. So I have to, make money for that too. How does your brand position you to achieve your goal? Yeah, I'm a parent. I've seen all this. I know exactly how this process works. I know exactly when Shreya was lazy about applying for colleges, what mistakes she made, and I'm able to get that point across to the other students. And I said, what changes do I need to make? I tell people about my failures as a parent, what mistakes I made along the way, which I'm saying, I tell them, don't make the same mistakes I made, make new mistakes. Okay, so let's progress together. You make adjustments. I've gotten certifications. I talk about introducing myself. But again, my point of introducing myself is never about me. It's about my message to Sandra and to Rovembo could be completely different. Okay, because I know a little bit about them, which I'll figure out before I give my elevator pitch to anybody. My elevator pitch is very different from everybody, depending on who I'm talking to. You showcase your brand by, you can take on relevant, leadership roles. You start a blog, website. You can just comment. I mean, you could just take a fight with somebody on LinkedIn over a topic, and that becomes your brand. I can tell you your fight with somebody over a brand or saying, I disagree with one of the guys I know is the CEO now of a company in the Bay Area, a good friend of mine. His claim to fame, which he will not admit to it, but I can tell you this today, was he took up a fight with a CEO of a company which was automating these Twitter handles and automating the message going out. And the CEO sent a note on LinkedIn saying how cool his company is. And that company got funded. It's a Canadian company. And he wrote a response on LinkedIn saying, with all due respect, I disagree with you. And he wrote like 7-8 lines. And the CEO had to respond because this was on a public forum, right? So now suddenly this man he's taking exception to how the CEO of a publicly traded company was sending a note about his company and how he reacted to it. Okay, so that built his expertise right away. Immediately, people were like, "Holy crap! This guy knows so much. He can actually have the guts to fight with the CEO." That's very respectfully. He was not using any 4-letter words there. Okay, so build your brand. It's very important. How do you leverage social media? I leverage Nextdoor. Nextdoor is a big medium for me, right? Most people don't even think of Nextdoor, which is a local social media channel where I can get a lot of the local community members. I help them out with a lot of things, and they reach and they look at my profile. So I help them, not saying you should look at me, but it just happens. We'll end up just connecting through that. We establish the value through giving new content. Sometimes I'll actually create my own indigenous content, which is most of it's my own content, but I also curate content from other sites and I send it. So parents and others hook into my content, particularly when they have students of high school age, or when they are looking to change jobs, when they want to come to Salesforce, they want to learn about architecture, software engineering. Those are my branding things why people come to me. You need to have a plan on a daily basis, weekly basis about what you're going to tweet, what you're going to talk about. It takes 15 minutes. Plan on a Sunday morning what you're going to send out. Automate those tweets. Put them in sections to get automated. Even if it's one tweet a week, that's okay. But send out a good message out to certain audiences. Every TikTok has a different audience. Pinterest has a different audience. LinkedIn has a different audience. They don't always need to get new content from you. You could just make a point about an existing content, and people will check that out, by the way. Recruiters will check that out. Companies will check that out about the content that you were writing about, what you posted, what you responded to, how you responded to what people responded to you. People will read all that, okay? That's far better a brand than, oh, he's got, 1,000 likes on a particular page. Some bullshit, okay? How do you manage your brand? You promote your accomplishments, okay? You maximize in meetings. Like I said, that guy was maximizing virtual meetings, talking. Communication, very, very clear to have the right gravitas in which you're speaking and staying relevant to the point. Like right now, I'm going over. I'm at 9 o'clock. I should be stopping now, but I can't because I have to finish this presentation. Okay, so you got to learn from my own mistakes. I get carried away, but if I could not, I would have finished in 20 minutes. I'm already at 30 minutes right now. Okay, so this is your brand building opportunity with colleges. Okay, firstly, I will send you a link to this presentation. And I should do that before this chat session ends. So you can all click on, like, you can build virtual experiences doing volunteering with companies in the US, which look for people to do volunteer help. Guess what? You do not need to be a US citizen or a green card holder to volunteer. When you volunteer, you can actually volunteer with companies, which will give you good recommendations. Okay. So build your brand. Send notes to target professors at colleges, asking them for a particular question that you have. Build your brand, saying, hey, I'm planning to apply to this college. I need to speak to you for something, yada, yada, yada. Okay. It's very important to build that brand. This is some of the notes Shreya used to send out to colleges. Okay. And the professors used to respond to her. Okay. So that's really cool. Building your services experience with religious groups. I mean, each of you is a member of either a church or a synagogue or something, right? Build out your experiences, teaching certain things, become a connoisseur, be a leader in your own community. It's not very hard to do a lot of these things in your church and other, religious areas. But this is low-hanging fruit by which you can build your personality, okay? These are 2 links to volunteer match areas where if you have some skills, they'll match your skills with volunteer organizations that require your help. Start building your resume. Your resume should be fully loaded, ready to go by the time you finish college, or heck, even when you enter college. You shouldn't be saying, oh, what should I write about? Okay, this thing should be ready with you. Recommended resources are about 4 resources. These are books. You should look at these articles and stuff and try to build this brand for yourself. Okay. With that, I'm grossly over time. So sorry about that, but please, I'm here open with questions.
Thank you so much, Apal. Like, this was, I don't know, I was just out here writing notes because there's so much that you were saying. And I was just like, I don't think you can ever be at the point where you stop learning. So I hope everyone else has learned. It's time for questions. So you can use the chat feature, raise your hand and unmute yourself. Any questions?
Yeah, I'm cool with you just asking questions or send me notes as well. I'm fine with anything. And you can always reach out to me later as well. So let me put this presentation.
Yeah, we'll also share the slide in the group chat so
right now. Yeah,
people can download it as well. Any questions?
I do have a question. I remember there's a part when we're talking about communicating effectively, and most of us coming from Zimbabwe, India, we have to deal with accent issues in these countries. So what are some of the ways you've employed to allow people to hear you effectively when you're saying something, or to even communicate effectively when you're talking to people from different backgrounds?
That's a very important question. And in fact, you probably notice, even though I try hard to not use my Indian accent, it's still there. I don't have a Native American accent, and I'll never will. But I did go through classes. I actually went through training. I actually got phonetics training to speak the way Americans talk. And the company I was at, a company called NetSuite, which got acquired by Oracle, I was a sales rep over there. And I was killing it. My numbers were just through the roof. But my boss felt I could do better. He was a jerk of a guy, but he helped me. He was my boss's boss. And he sent me for training. He said, I want you to go for phonetics training, voice modeling training, modulation. A part of so I actually went through that training. That lady was charging $200 an hour. The company paid for it. But YouTube has amazing tutorials on spoken language. A few things I did when I came in this country was there's a channel called NPR on radio, National Public Radio. So one of my mentors said, listen to NPR 1 hour a day, not just listening, actively listening to literally speak back. So when I would drive to work, it was a 1 hour drive, I would listen to that channel where obviously the Native American speakers would talk. And as they were talking, they would finish a sentence. I didn't care about the content. I had to just speak it again. The same thing what they spoke, I had to just say it again, just very similar to what the person on the radio was talking. That helped me big time in changing. A, I was able to slow down. B, I was able to pick up some of the attenuations, how English goes up and down for American speakers. But I'm still not good at it. And I tell you what, your mojo is in who you are. Okay, as long as you are legible and you're not too fast and you're respectful, the world will bend to understand your accent. You can only go so far. Okay, in fact, you would look very fake if your accent, you had no Zimbabwean accent, if you had no home accent. That's not who you are. Okay, and this is something which one of my girlfriends from the prior life, just come to the US and people would call me Harpal. They would call me Harpal Kocher. Well, my name is Harpal Kocher. Okay. And because I wanted to blend in with the crowds, I would pick up the phone and say, this is a Harpal, right? And one day this girl called me and she said, who? And I said, this is Harpal, who's calling? And this is her. And she's like, how did you change your name? And I said, that's how people want to call me. And she gave me a lecture. She said, no, your name is Harpal. So now when I ask people, when I introduce myself, I say, my name is Harpal, right? My hand goes with that, saying they will remember me. My name matters. Who I am matters to the goddamn world. I'm not going to change it because you can't pronounce it. Your not pronunciation is on you. You need to fix it. I don't need to fix my name. Okay? I hope I didn't get too passionate about explaining that.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think that's like a very lingering thing around most of us, since we all have accents, most of us on this call actually.
No, I mean, as long as, like I said, slow down. That's all what this is about. And as long as you're respectful and you're giving value. I mean, look at you. You are amazing, remember, in what you've done. I've met you. I know who you are, right? And I know a million other women who cannot even come close to who you are. And the brand is from the innateness of your personality, being just authentic.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Anybody else? Any more questions, guys?
I don't see any questions, but if we ever have any other questions outside this, we'll definitely direct them to you. But thank you so much. Learned so much. And I'm ready to start implementing all of those things I learned in my life this year. And just tying it to what we're also doing, you were talking about being a holistic person. This is also one of our values as Tosse Foundation. So we're trying to build a holistic person, an individual from all of our backgrounds and, being our authentic selves. So I hope you all are learning a lot from this as well. And networking, we were talking about networking last week and building a resume. So I hope you're all starting to think about your capstone project, because that is important for you as you build your brand as well. But thank you so much. Really appreciate you taking time to have a chat with us and teach us all of those important skills and lessons in life. So any questions from people outside this chat or on this chat? Otherwise, we will be happy.
Yeah. I'll just add on to say that most of the students who signed up were not able to join because of network challenges or either power cuts in Zimbabwe. So we're going to share this video with them. And if anyone has questions, I'm just going to send them to you, because I know a lot of them will watch this video and might have actually questions, follow-up questions. So I'm definitely going to share this with them. So expect maybe a few questions from me next week. Yeah.
That's okay. I'm always here. If you need me to come back to talk to you all, it's my pleasure to help young students.
Yeah, and before we leave this meeting, just a reminder that we have another session next week. So please come join us again. We'll be learning more, and we hope that you're also learning a lot from us. So keep engaged and just keep the group chat going. If you have any questions, feel free to private message any of us or just message anyone. Pardon has his hand raised up. You can unmute.
All right. Thank you very much. Just a remark. I wanted to say thank you for the presentation. In fact, all of the presentations that we had today, I learned a lot, and it resonates with what I heard throughout the week. Someone told me that value is a statement. I just want to share that. They said value is something that you discover, not something that is created. And it makes sense, especially from what you were saying about personal branding and just putting yourself out there. It really means something to us because it encourages me to just put myself out because I know I have something inside me. So that is really helpful. Yeah.
I love how you said it. Value is discovered, not created. Is that what you said? Discovered, not created?
Yes, exactly.
It's so beautifully said, because ultimately, I mean, it's what your natural gravitas is, right? I mean, this is who you are as a person, and you bring what you bring to the table. And trust me, each of you has lived a life. I mean, heck, you've lived a harder life than most people can even imagine. Okay. Growing up in India, growing up in Africa, it's hard. Life is not easy. Okay. So you bring a lot of that to the table, the survivor skills, the fact that you're on this call, you're winners already. So don't let anybody ever tell you that you're not there. I mean, you've already arrived. It's just letting people know how you've arrived. That's what we're talking about. And that rhetoric, that feeling within yourself is what will take you places. That's what took me places. I am who I am now because of that belief in myself.
If we don't have any questions, thank you all so much for attending today and sparing this time. We hope to see you next week. And Hapal, thank you so much. I cannot emphasize on how we appreciate you coming to, like, I just learned a lot. So thank you very much. But we're gonna end this session. So if you have any questions, please feel free to direct them to us and we will get them to our guest speakers from today. Also, we'll send the presentations so that you can all like look at the resources that have been that you can access, and you can use those resources for your own personal brand. But yeah, feel free to leave the meeting. We'll just hang out here in case people have other questions.
Yeah, I'm here.
Sorry, I think my question might be not necessarily related to what you were talking about, but what I mean, obviously you've got experience of how you have been with a lot of students over the years and all of that. So my question to you is how hard how hard is it to or get get enrolled for a master's program at a top university in the States, and what is expected of me? Because already, like, I know obviously, like you were saying, you have things like the grades. I'll be vulnerable and talk about myself. For instance, I'm going into my third year of economics at the University of Namibia, and I wouldn't want to say I'll be honest, but I don't have the best grades, but I can fully say that I guess that's also partly because of me not applying myself. And I know I'm capable of much more and all of that jazz. So obviously my question to you is what would I need to, obviously I know I'd have to get my grades up there, and obviously I'd assume that I need to do a lot more in showing the person that I am and volunteering and being in societies that, like, maybe even being part of Tosio, for instance. Yeah, I don't know, maybe if you can add more, if maybe I already know it, but I'm just looking for someone to just solidify what I'm trying to say, or what I don't know, but that's my question to you.
Yeah, I can take a crack at the answer, and then I'll expect Ruvimbo and Sandra, because they have done a lot of this, to be able to also give you a perspective on it. I think the first thing is, at a master's level, the expectation of you is different from when you come in at a undergraduate level. And the expectation is that of a expert, or at least of a demonstrated interest, which might not be as important at the undergraduate level, but at the master's level, it becomes a lot more important. Think of it from the point of view as a business transaction. This is like a company hiring you, like a well-esteemed college. When they take you in, or a highly selective college, what they're looking for is a few things. They're saying, is Victor going to graduate? If we get him in, will he finish in 2 years? Will he go on to become somebody who, as an alumni, will give us money back in the school? And will his experiences from Namibia, are they going to be valuable to the classroom cohort? So is he dedicated? Is he showing linearity in growth over the last 4 years? Has he grown? Has his grades been on a upward trajectory? Even though you might not have straight A's, but you could not be going downwards in your last year. You're still in your junior year, so you still have some time to build it up. They are also looking for those rare and valuable skills. So if you're doing economics, there are skills you can pick up along with it, which might not be economics related, but they showcase for, it could be political science, or could be computer science, or something which is showing the admissions officer that in a classroom of, can they make a varied cohort? Can they make a classroom which is fairly diverse in thinking, not just culturally, but in thinking? So you have some things already going in your favor. That is, you didn't grow up in the US, which is actually a good thing. Depends how you look at it. Some might say, oh, it's bad and stuff. No, it's good, okay? Because you bring values which are different. How you portray those values, how you start conversations. Like starting now this year, you should be sending professors notes, research links, trying to start following some specific professors. If there are like, Ruvimbo's friend Mufaro wanted to go to MIT, right? So he probably had reached out or had like 8 or 10 professors who were on his hit list, who he was following on LinkedIn, who he was liking, clapping for them, maybe sending a response to them when they posted something. You build your brand in multiple ways. First, you get in touch with their network. You build expertise in their industry, a varied experience, and your academics will matter. So if you think your academics are not there, because I tell you, the biggest problem people have with international students is we can't really value American counselors can't really, like, they know the schools in California, in Fremont, where I live, very well. They know exactly the rigor that the students go through. They will have a much harder time knowing about a specific university, especially if it's not a very well-known university in Namibia. That's where your more on the demonstrated interest comes out. That's where your community work comes around. You don't have to go to the most selective college. You could look at tier 2 colleges, which will also be looking at your skill set. They might actually give you more financial aid than a tier 1 college will. So there are lots of ways to skin the cat. Stay in touch with me. Use my classroom to ask questions. Stay out, and I'm happy to be one-on-one in touch with you about this. But Ruvimbo and Sandra, anything from either of you, please go ahead.
I just also, on an unrelated note, I wanted to mention how you've got 2 beautiful daughters. You mentioned, so I wanted to tell you that.
Oh, I will let both of them know that. Yes.
Thank you very much.
But Sandra, remember anything that you want to chime in with on a perspective to what I had to add? Anything?
I think you've kind of mentioned this, but just I was working as an admissions student officer like for the last 2 years in my college year, and like they really don't emphasize, they do put an emphasis on grades, but like they're looking at a holistic perspective. What are you bringing to the table? Not just your grades. We know you're already smart because you're applying here, but like, what are you bringing to the table? What are your values? How are you going to add value to the school and the community in general? So I think that is like just encouraging us to not just, if like, I know from a Zimbabwean perspective, when I was in high school, I was a science person. I wanted to do biochemistry, physics, math. That was all I did. And all of the things that I was doing were in that circle. But like, there are other things that you can possibly do that would add value. So do you do music? Do you do dancing? What other things do you do that would, like, when you come to college, like they're gonna add value? Like even in when you go like to a master's program, I think they're also thinking about like, how are you going to relate with the community and how do you like add value to that community? So I think that'll be something you should really consider as well.